Alright, welcome to a morning video. I'm going to continue on with MBSR. I'm hoping to knock this off as soon as possible. What would be really cool is if I could finish it earlier than in the 8 weeks. But this is one of those things where, yeah, it probably makes more sense to go for a cert. I don't have the AWS cert. NVIDIA certs, I think, will be pretty hot in the future. The CCNP cert would be a good one, although I think I was studying for the wrong test. But this is one where I feel like this is going to give me the most benefits for the least amount of effort, and certainly for the least risk, for sure. So the next video was I was going to start week 1. And if you're at all skeptical about this, you think, oh, it's woo-woo, it's not real, go through by yourself and check out this site, or check out my first video where I really go over that, because I'm definitely approaching this as a skeptic. So as a skeptic and somebody who is secular and doesn't want to be involved in the religious elements of this, I've came to the conclusion that this was a good idea for me. So if you're a skeptic, check out my first video and you might come to a similar conclusion, because I go through all the science and the citations and the systematic reviews and meta studies that this actually does have positive effects as part of that Kaizen approach of making small incremental changes to having a better life. This will reduce stress and anxiety. It will help with self-compassion and other really useful things. It will reduce stress, which is obviously beneficial for any career professional. All right, so this is week 1. We're going to focus on simple awareness. And we're going to learn about the body scan. Now that you've experienced the introduction and completed the Getting Started worksheet, see Getting Started, you are ready to begin. Welcome. So I have done all of that, and the worksheet I completed is in this special folder I made called MBSR. So I can review my answers quick, because if this is the first video someone's watching, my answers might be helpful. So by the end of this course, I'm hoping that I reduce my experiences of anxiety, depression, and stress, and that I increase my levels of mindfulness and self-compassion. And then I worked with ChatGPT to determine my core strengths, which are resilience, adaptability, intellectual curiosity, strategic thinking, creativity, persistence, mindfulness and reflection, multitasking and balance, and self-awareness. Then I committed to making these videos if I have time in the morning. Today I have more than 2 hours. And then if not, then I have a flexible approach where I'll be able to make one after work, depending on the demands of my time. And then on the weekends, I can make it a higher priority because I'll have more time to devote. And I'm planning to do this all here for everyone watching as a benefit to the world. Because I think this is something rare. I think you won't see other technology YouTubers talking about this or doing this. And, it's constantly talked about, this burnout culture. Now this particularly doesn't talk about burnout or prevent burnout. But this can be a good first step for further strategies that can actually prevent that burnout. So although MBSR itself is not explicitly geared towards preventing burnout, it can be a first step that allows you to make better progress towards another sort of strategy that does specifically take on burnout. All right, and then it looks like I accidentally didn't fill this out. Oh, I did. I just put it in bold for some reason. So we can unbold that. And yep, so mornings, evenings, and weekends, because I do full-time work during the day. And there you go. Those are my answers. So for this one, I definitely recommend everyone. It's $20 a month. Sign up for. I'm still a big fan of ChatGPT. I've heard that Claude is a lot better. I've been considering switching, but I'm just happy with ChatGPT. I don't feel the need to switch. So I came up with this with ChatGPT. So I encourage everyone to be talking to it as often as you can, because I learned about Kaizen, I learned about MBSR. The whole reason I'm doing this course now is because it was recommended to me by ChatGPT. So invaluable tool. Note: the links to all the materials described below are given in the colored section at the bottom of the page. Although there are 5 videos to watch this week, once you start one, the others will automatically follow. Some of the videos have ads at the beginning. Revenue from these videos go to the original creators of the videos, not to Pelosi Mindfulness. Videos. The videos for this week begin with The Power of Mindfulness, in which Shauna Shapiro emphasizes the importance not of just paying attention to our inner experience, but paying attention with kindness. In Don't Try to Be Mindful, Darren Larson addresses a common misunderstanding about mindfulness practice, that if our meditation is not peaceful and free of thoughts, then we must be doing something wrong. In Mindfulness and the Body, Michelle Maldonado talks about how intertwined the body, mind, and emotion are. John Kabat-Zinn continues with this theme in Befriending Our Bodies. Finally, All Bodies Are Beautiful is an amazing 4-minute video which chronicles what Amy Pence Brown, a self-described body image activist, did oh my god, this is going to be bad, in a busy public market. Now a lot of this, so that's the point, right? And there was a warning in my last video, and I do want to bring that up. This is kind of the key. Meditation is not peaceful and free of thoughts. If you have some trauma in your life, this will kind of gin that up. So be aware of that. If it's too intense, this free course might not be for you, and you might need to seek out professional help led by a qualified, certified psychologist. But for myself, I think this is good, so I'm going to continue. Readings. Each week, there are readings which are an important part of the program. This week, the main reading is about the body scan meditation, which will be your primary practice this week. 7 myths of meditation and why we find it so hard to meditate address common misunderstandings, including the idea that one must have a quiet mind to meditate successfully. Mouthfuls of Mindfulness describe a way of eating that is not directed by charts, tables, pyramids, or scales. So this is probably a big reason why ChatGPT wanted me to do this, because this is what we're working on together right now. We're working on a Kaizen approach to make small incremental changes that improve all aspects of my life. And one of the biggest aspects of my life that is in dire jeopardy right now are my eating habits. My eating habits are very poor, so we're trying to correct those. The next section is daily practices. This week begins your daily formal practice. On the first day, you'll do a raisin meditation, for which you'll need 2 raisins and a glass of water. I don't have raisins, so I think I would probably use something else rather than raisins. On the following days, you'll do the body scan meditation. The guidance for these is available through the menu just to the left of this text under Practices. On a smartphone, click on the menu icon just under Pelosi on the top banner. Below, you can see the link to the formal practice sheet where you will be making brief notes about your practice. Note, if you will be completing this by hand, print the PDF file, but if you'd like to complete it on your computer, download the Word file. For the informal practice this week, it is suggested that you bring mindful awareness to some otherwise routine activity, such as washing the clothes and or eating a meal. At the end of each day, using the informal practice sheet, you will be printing or downloading this week. See below. Just take 5 minutes or so to see if you can recall a daily activity which brought you awareness to that day. And I'll admit, I'm a little bit, I would say, at least intermediate, if not pretty advanced in this already. My main kind of passion for the last decade and my main way I would use my time outside of work was to go practice juggling. I would go practice it every night for at least an hour, and then I would go to the local clubs. I would compete in the international competitions. And if you're not a mindful person, if you don't have a lot of mindfulness, when it comes to juggling, you'll just make the same mistakes over and over and over again. You won't make any progress. So I think I do have pretty high levels of mindfulness that I learned from juggling, because I know, I keep throwing it wrong. I have to identify how it's being thrown wrong and then throw it correct. So I might be a little bit advanced, but so I'm going to try to get through this hopefully in more than 8 weeks. If you're not, if it takes you longer, then that's great. So basically what I'm saying is if I seem like I'm getting through this really fast and not having trouble with the material, it's not because for you it's not because you're in some way failing to keep up. It's that I probably have a little bit of a head start. Next section is supplementary reading. In addition, each week will indicate some supplementary reading or viewing materials. Listed are suggestions for background reading or viewing, but only if you'd like to know more about a given week's topic. These are not required. For this week, if weight loss and healthy eating are of interest, see Introduction to Mindful Eating by Michelle Duval and The Mindfulness-Based Eating Solution by Lynn Rossi. Managing Anxiety with Mindfulness by Rachel Green specifically addresses test anxiety. Okay, let's get started. Below are your materials for this week. So lots of materials. It should take a full week. We're just going to take them one at a time as they come. And we're going to, so one at a time as they come. So the first one is The Power of Mindfulness by Shona Shapiro. And it's a 13-minute video. We will watch it faster, though. All right. And I am mindful of my sound. My sound is broken right now, so I've got to fix it.
In rush hour traffic, you can remain perfectly calm. If you can see your neighbors travel to fantastic places with If, in rush hour traffic, you can remain perfectly calm.
Sound
If you
check.
can see your neighbors travel to fantastic places without a twinge of jealousy. If you can love everyone around you unconditionally. And if you can always find contentment just where you are, then you're probably a dog. Right? We hold ourselves to these unrealistic standards of perfection, and then we judge ourselves when we don't live up to them. The thing is, we're not supposed to be perfect. Perfection isn't possible. But transformation is. All of us have the capacity to change, to learn, and to grow, no matter what our circumstances. As a professor and scientist, I study how people change, how people transform. And one of the most effective vehicles I've found is mindfulness. My own journey into mindfulness was unexpected. When I was 17, I had spinal fusion surgery, a metal rod put in my spine. I went from a healthy, active teenager to lying in a hospital bed, unable to walk. And during the many months of rehabilitation, I tried to figure out how to live in this body that could no longer do what it used to. The physical pain was difficult, but worse was the fear and the loneliness, and I simply didn't have the tools to cope. So I began searching for something that could help, and eventually the search led me to a monastery in Thailand for my first meditation retreat. At the monastery, the monks didn't speak much English, and I didn't speak any Thai, but I understood mindfulness had something to do with paying attention in the present moment. My only instruction was to feel the breath going in and out of my nose. So I began. 1 breath, 2 breaths. My mind wandered off. I brought it back. 1 breath, 2 breaths. It wandered again, sucked into the past or lost in the future. And no matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't stay present. Now this was frustrating because I thought meditation was supposed to feel like this, and instead it felt more like this. Right? Being present isn't so easy. In fact, check it out for yourself. I've been speaking for about 3 minutes. Have you noticed your mind has wandered?
And I apologize. I did not see the graphic, so we're gonna watch this again, and then I'll answer her question. Has my mind wandered?
Now, this was frustrating because I thought meditation was supposed to feel like this, and instead, it felt more like this. Right? Being present isn't so easy. In fact, check it out for yourself. I've been speaking for about 3 minutes. Have you noticed your mind has wandered?
So, this is a tough question because my mind hasn't wandered at all. I'm listening. I'm tapped in. I knew that I missed that graphic. I went back and looked at it. But my body has wandered. I'm going into the kitchen and I'm doing putting stuff out of the dishwasher and into the dishwasher so that I can do some dishes, and I'm preparing breakfast. But I am mindful of that, and I'm doing, if I were going into the kitchen to snort a line of cocaine, or then I feel like I would need more mindfulness in my life. But I'm mindful of what I was doing, and I don't see a need to change it. So the answer to that question is yes. My mind has been focused on this goal in a way that I find satisfactory. So what's your answer? What's your answer?
All of our minds wander. Research from Harvard shows the mind wanders on average 47% of the time. 47%. That's almost half of our lives that we're missing, that we're not here. So part of mindfulness is simply learning to train the mind in how to be here, where we already are.
Oh, but one thing I do have to say is I went back into the kitchen and I felt nervous. So what I did was I took my left hand, I took my thumb where there's some skin that's kind of loose on it due to like dry skin or whatever, and I put it in my mouth and I started chewing on it, which is one of my worst habits all throughout my life, and I was completely not mindful of that at all. It happened in a completely mindless way. So because we're talking about mindfulness, this is all about mindfulness, I became mindful of that, and I decided, this is not something I want to do. So this is what it's all about, right? Like your worst habit, the thing you've been wanting to get rid of your whole life. Oh, why do I do this? Why do I do that? This is your freedom. This is the ticket. Like this is the key to the lock. This is how you get out of consistently doing things in a way that you don't want to do them, right? You first need to be mindful of them. Like if they're completely mindless things that happen outside of your awareness, game over, right? You're just going to keep making the same mistakes over and over again.
Like right now, let's practice together. Allow your eyes to close and just feel your feet on the floor. Wiggle your toes and sense your whole body sitting here, softening the face, softening the jaw, and notice that you're breathing, feeling the breath as it naturally flows in and out of the body, just being here. And as you're ready, taking a deeper breath in and out, allowing your eyes to open. So, back at the monastery, I was trying hard to do just this, to just be present. But no matter how hard I tried, my mind kept wandering off. And at this point, I really started to judge myself. What is wrong with you? You're terrible at this. Why are you even here? You're a fake. And then not only was I judging myself, I started judging everyone, even the monks. Why are they just sitting here? Shouldn't they be doing something? Thankfully, a monk from London arrived who spoke English. And as I shared with him my struggles, he looked at me and said, "Oh dear, you're not practicing mindfulness. You're practicing judgment, impatience, frustration." And then he said 5 words that have never left me. What you practice grows stronger. What you practice grows stronger. We know this now with neuroplasticity. Our repeated experiences shape our brain. We can actually sculpt and strengthen our synaptic connections based on repeated practice. For example, in the famous study of London taxi drivers, the visual spatial mapping part of the brain is bigger, stronger. They've been practicing navigating the 25,000 streets of London all day long. When you look at the brains of meditators, the areas related to attention, learning, compassion grow bigger and stronger. It's called cortical thickening, the growth of new neurons in response to repeated practice. What we practice grows stronger. The monk explained to me that if I was meditating with judgment, I was just growing judgment. Meditating with frustration, I'm growing frustration. He helped me understand that mindfulness isn't just about paying attention. It's about how we pay attention, with kindness. He said it's like these loving arms that welcome everything, even the messy, imperfect parts of ourselves. He also pointed out that we're practicing all the time, moment by moment, not just when we're meditating, but in every moment. We're growing something in every moment. So the question really becomes, what do you want to grow? What do you want to practice? When I left Thailand, I wanted to keep practicing mindfulness, and I wanted to understand it scientifically. So I began a PhD program, eventually became a professor, and I've spent the past 20 years investigating the effects of mindfulness across a wide range of populations, including veterans with PTSD, patients with insomnia, women with breast cancer, stressed out college students, high-level business executives, and over.
So I began a PhD program, eventually became a professor, just the routine stuff like getting the groceries and taking the garbage out.
Over and over, the data showed two key things. First, mindfulness works. It's good for you. It strengthens our immune functioning, it decreases stress, decreases cortisol, helps us sleep better. When we published our first research back in '98, there were only a handful of studies. Now there are thousands of studies showing the beneficial effects of mindfulness. It's good for us. The second thing we learned was quite unexpected. Almost all the people we were working with, regardless of their age, their gender, their background, were talking about the same thing. This underlying sense of, I'm not good enough, I'm not okay, I'm not living this life right. This tremendous self-judgment and shame. And we all know what they were talking about, because shame is universal. All of us feel it. And worse, we have this mistaken belief that if we shame ourselves, if we beat ourselves up, we'll somehow improve. And yet, shame doesn't work. Shame never works. It can't work. Literally, physiologically, it can't work, because when we feel shame, the centers of the brain that have to do with growth and learning shut down. This fMRI shows the brain on shame. What happens is the amygdala triggers a cascade of norepinephrine and cortisol to flood our system, shutting down the learning centers and shuttling our resources to survival pathways. Shame literally robs the brain of the energy it needs to do the work of changing. And worse, when we feel shame, we want to avoid it. So we hide from those parts of ourselves we're ashamed of, the parts that most need our attention. It's just too painful to look at them. So what's the alternative? Kind attention. First, kindness gives us the courage to look at those parts of ourselves we don't want to see. And second, kindness bathes us with dopamine, turning on the learning centers of the brain and giving us the resources we need to change. True and lasting transformation requires kind attention. And the monk's words echoed in my ears. Mindfulness isn't just about attention, it's about kind attention. This attitude of kindness wasn't just a footnote or something nice to have, it was an essential part of the practice, a part of mindfulness that's so often overlooked. So my colleagues and I developed a model of mindfulness that explicitly includes our attitude and our intention, as well as our attention, all three parts working together synergistically. Put simply, mindfulness is intentionally paying attention with kindness. We used this model while working at the Veterans Hospital for a group of men with PTSD. I was shocked to learn that we lose more veterans to suicide each year than to combat. Our soldiers carry so much pain and shame. So the intention of the mindfulness group was to cultivate this kind attention, even for the seemingly unforgivable parts of ourselves. There was one man in the group who never said a word, never looked up. 2 months passed, he seemed unreachable. And then one day he raised his hand and he said, I don't want to get better. What I saw in the war, what I did, I don't deserve to get better. He then looked down at the floor and proceeded to tell us in great detail what he had seen and what he had done. And I can still feel the horror of what he shared and how his shame filled the room. I looked up to see how the other men were responding, and there was no judgment, only compassion on their faces. I invited him to look up and to witness this compassion and this kindness. And as he slowly looked around the room, his face began to soften. And in his eyes there was hope, the possibility that he wasn't just his past actions, that he could choose differently now, that he could change. And this may be one of the most important things I've learned. It's that transformation is possible for all of us, no matter what. And it requires kind attention, not shame. And this kind attention takes practice. It takes lots of practice. I want to share with you a simple practice that continues to help me. Some years ago, I was going through a difficult divorce, and I'd wake up every morning with this pit of shame in my stomach. My meditation teacher suggested an explicit practice of kind attention. She said, how about saying, I love you, Shauna, every day? I thought to myself, no way. It felt so contrived. She saw my hesitation and suggested, how about just saying good morning, Shauna? Oh, and try putting your hand on your heart when you say it. It releases oxytocin. It's good for you, you know. She knew the science would win me over. So the next day, put my hand on my heart, took a breath, and said, good morning, Shauna. And it was kind of nice. I continued to practice, and a month later when I saw her, I admitted how helpful it had been. Wonderful, you've graduated, she said. Now, the advanced practice. Good morning, I love you, Shauna. So the next day, put my hand on my heart, anchored myself, and said, good morning, I love you, Shauna. I felt nothing, except maybe a little ridiculous, but definitely not love. But I kept practicing, because as we know, what we practice grows stronger. And then one day I put my hand on my heart, took a breath. Good morning, I love you, Shauna. And I felt it. I felt my grandmother's love, I felt my mother's love, I felt my own self-love. And I wish I could tell you that every day since then has been this bubble of self-love and I've never felt shame or judgment again, and that's not true. But what is true is this pathway of kind attention has been established, and it's growing stronger every day. So I want to invite you tomorrow to to put your hand on your heart and say good morning. And if you're really brave, good morning. I love you. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's going to be hard for a lot of people to do. I'll do it. Good morning, Graham. I love you. So you can hear, like, I wasn't able to say it with a lot of like conviction or passion. Yeah, I was just kind of able to go through the motions of it, which is a huge, uh, you know, step forward. I really struggled to do that. So I've had some prior exposure to this and doing that sort of thing. And Man, like try it yourself. Like if it can be really hard, it can be impossible to do it. So yeah, let's move on to the next video. Next video, Don't Try to Be Mindful by Darren Larson.
So mindfulness is a way to train your attention using your ordinary senses and perceptions. Maybe you've heard about it. There's this explosion of research that's validating its many benefits. The way it helps people manage stress, reduce their anxiety, and even sleep better. I was skeptical about these claims because I have kind of a natural talent for stress. One time I was stressed out on vacation after a massage at a hot spring spa resort. And I kept thinking how I wanted to take a picture of this place because it would help me relax when I got back to the job I was dreading returning to. So that gives you an idea of what I was up against, but I decided I'm going to give this mindfulness a try. So I've been practicing every day for 13 years, and I noticed that it started to quietly transform the way I was living my life when I stopped trying to get the outcomes I was hoping for and instead put my attention on doing the exercises required to get there. It reminded me what I already knew about physical fitness. If you take the stairs and you notice your heart starts to beat faster, maybe your legs start to burn, you don't say to yourself, oh, I must be taking the stairs wrong, right? You say, this is what taking the stairs feels like. And if we always take the elevator in order to save time and avoid discomfort, we just miss opportunities for developing our physical health. And it's the same thing. It works the same way. So many people try mindfulness and they're convinced they're doing it wrong, so they give up. And they miss an opportunity to change their relationship with discomfort. And if you expect your everyday life to be free of discomfort and confusion, you're going to spend all your energy worrying, trying not to feel what you feel, and saying, this messy life is not my real life. So what keeps us holding out for these perfect, comfortable lives that we imagine? And how can training your attention help address these habits? There's an underlying story problem built into the way we relate to our lives. It feels like I'm a character navigating all these challenges in order to get somewhere. And this narrative structure is incredibly useful. It helps me decide what's important. It makes it possible to work towards and achieve goals. But there's a problem. My obstacles don't seem to be part of what I consider my actual life. They feel like temporary annoyances that I have to push through in order to get to what's on the other side. But very often, it turns out what's on the other side of my obstacles ends up not being the relief I'm hoping for. Am I the only one? It ends up being another obstacle. And I have a spoiler alert here. This pattern keeps repeating and repeating, and we end up habitually waiting for what's ever happening to pass. And this dilemma scales all the way down to the moment-by-moment experience. All these little looping stories of waking up on time and trying to get to work and going to meeting and dealing with difficult people, deciding what to eat. And maybe the best we can do is sometimes comfort ourselves with the idea of evenings and weekends and vacations, right? But it's at this moment-by-moment scale where the work of mindfulness occurs. All these little places where we distract ourselves and go onto autopilot. But mindfulness isn't a solution to your story problem. So don't cancel your therapy appointment. It's not a narrative solution at all. It's actually a solution for the problem of living within these narrative constraints. And any time that you habitually check out starts to become an opportunity for checking in. So let me give you a little exercise that you can use in any situation. All you have to do is pause to notice some sensory detail of your current experience. Let's give this a quick spin. For just a few seconds, what's it like to see? It's easy. What's it like to hear? What's it like to notice some sensation in your body? So that's probably the shortest exercise workout I've ever led, but what I'm hoping you'll do is compare it to what you already know about physical fitness. One push-up's not very impressive. It seems kind of trivial, but we know that if we make a habit and we do several push-ups a day, over weeks we're going to start noticing more strength in our upper body. So instead of trying to be mindful, what if you tried to notice what's happening? Every time you stop and pay close attention to what's happening, you disrupt that narrative of your life, from inside your story. Instead of trying to live in the moment, what if you just started to sneak this kind of noticing into your routine? When you take a shower, what would it be like to actually feel the water hitting your body or smell the shampoo? What would it be like to taste your coffee? What if you notice what it looks like to see the screen in your hand? And
Yeah, and the answer is it could be horrible. You know, you could realize that your life is absolutely a horror, and that's your first step to making changes. And then you can adopt this Kaizen philosophy. You know, what's the smallest thing you can do? Can you switch your shampoo? Is there another shampoo that you can use instead that doesn't smell so bad, or whatever, you know? This is where it can get challenging, right? Because you can do these sorts of exercise and come to the conclusion that everything is a complete disaster in my life, even the smallest things. But you know, if a lot of really small things are a disaster, I see that as a positive thing, because now you can make a lot of really small incremental improvements, according to the Kaizen method.
and once in a while, look up and see what's right in front of you. Right? Any activity that doesn't require much thinking will work for this. And it turns out there's a lot more of them than you realize once you start looking. And nobody needs to know that you're doing this. In fact, I recommend you kind of keep it to yourself. I've kind of learned from experience that nobody wants to hear about the relaxation you're savoring in your legs during a meeting. And the details you notice don't need to be pleasant. What's it like to run late? What's it like to be standing in the slowest line in the grocery store? What's it like to watch your windshield wipers as you're waiting for the light to turn green? Your strategy for living in the present will go a lot better when you accept how frequently the present sucks. So I've been describing a way to pay attention in the midst of ordinary life. But there's also a formal version of the practice you might be familiar, where you pick something to notice over and over again for a set amount of time. So maybe 10 or 15 minutes, you notice what it feels like to breathe. You might notice what it's like to hear sounds around you. And whenever you realize that you've completely lost contact with that, you just gently bring your attention back. This timed practice is what everybody thinks is the only thing that counts. And I want to challenge this assumption. The timed practice is intended, it's like going to the gym. It supports your ability to be attentive throughout the rest of the day. So you might notice relaxation during your timed practice, and then check in throughout the day to see if there's something restful at all that you can detect and savor. So one time I was teaching a class, and it wasn't a mindfulness class, but it was the first night. I get a phone call, and I had the start time wrong, so I was late, and I didn't realize it. There's a classroom full of people waiting across town for me. So I spent this whole evening toggling back and forth between the course content and how rattled I felt. My senses were heightened. My face was hot. My breath was shallow. I felt embarrassed. It was super vulnerable. And over the next 3 weeks, during my formal practice time, it became about observing all the related feelings and thoughts. And then throughout the day, I would check in to notice, can I detect any of those flavors emotionally? And they were always there, simmering on a back burner. And I think people would be surprised to know that if you saw me sitting every morning for those 3 weeks, you would say, oh, he looks so relaxed. He's not moving. I want some of what he's having. But inside, it was a total shitstorm. And I wasn't doing it wrong. This is what my embarrassment and the reverberations felt like. I think people would also be surprised to discover that the catharsis I felt during that time was worth every moment of turning towards that icky garden variety discomfort instead of pushing it away. The narrative mode of attention wasn't always our default. Louise Glick says, we look at the world once in childhood, the rest is memory. Noticing that you're alive is a taste that adults have to reacquire. People think they don't have time to practice paying attention in the way I'm describing, but I think what we really resist is being willing to set aside our unresolved story problems, even for a few seconds. And I'm not advocating noticing every sensation all the time. Instead of trying to put your story aside for even 15 minutes a day, what would it be like if you limited your worrying and your numbing and your unconsciousness to 23 hours and 45 minutes? You don't have to try to be mindful. You don't have to be relaxed. Just by remembering to notice again and again that this messy life, with its one obstacle after another, really is your life. And that it's possible to train your attention so that you feel more at home, both in your story and in the direct experience of living. Thank you.
Today, we're going to talk about the keys to living a mindful, present, and
All right, so there you have it. Now this probably is the next video, but I want to go back and make sure I'm taking it one at a time. So that was don't try to be mindful. It was yeah. So that was interesting. Key takeaway from that for me is, you know, it's not meant to be pleasant, right? It's like you're not being mindful and going, ah, how wonderful the day is. You know, you're saying this sucks. Like this situation is horrible. And then I'm not sure if this particular course will do it, but you know, from there you can take a next step. How can I improve it? And I would recommend to look into Kaizen. That's the strategy I'm using. That's the strategy I came up with talking to ChatGPT. So you know, you might look at Kaizen, but there might be some other strategy that works better. All right, so moving on to the next video, mindfulness and the body.
Today, we're going to talk about the keys to living a mindful, present, and compassionate life. I think we could all use a little bit more mindfulness in our lives, right? I'm Risa Morimoto, your host, and you're watching Modern Aging, where we chat about innovative and holistic ways to improve our health as we age. Today's guest is Michelle Maldonado. She's a certified emotional intelligence and mindful leadership expert. I listed a few resources down below in the description section, so you might want to check those out after the interview to go deeper into the topic. Through interactive and immersive experiences, she integrates systems of thinking, contemporary neuroscience, and mindfulness with emotional intelligence, compassion, and authenticity to help people flourish from the inside out. So check it out. Like, I feel like we don't even realize how disconnected we are from our bodies.
Yes, yes. So I'll tell you a quick story. When I was, I did a retreat in 2013, I think, and the facilitator was talking about how body awareness and how a lot of people walk around with their shoulders all up here, and she's like, and they don't even know it. And then we took a break, and I stood up, I'm like, how do they not know it? And I realized, oh my goodness, I am walking around with really stressed and tense shoulders. And it began to kind of pique my curiosity about what is this whole thing about body awareness and how is it impacting how I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, what I'm doing, and how I'm showing up and interacting with others. And then over time began to learn a little bit of the research around it, which is really quite fascinating. And even now it's morphing as we learn more. Initially, we looked. There was some research that looked at different types of emotions and where people feel them. And there's one study that was done out of Finland in like 2013. It's done some follow-on things since then. And it was cross-cultural, cross-generational, cross-gender in Europe and Asia. And they gave silhouettes of the body, human body, on a piece of paper. And next to those silhouettes were, you know, either a video or a word or a picture that sort of suggested a particular emotion. And they were asking people, where do you feel this emotion in your body? If you feel an increase in sensation, color it in on this silhouette. If you feel a decrease, color it in on this one. And if you feel nothing at all, don't color anything in. And then eventually what they did was they took all of those responses, superimposed each person's two silhouettes, and came up with a composite, kind of what I call like a heat map of the body. That was very telling for us, because what it suggested for one of the first times in a very clear way is that we all tend to hold the same types of emotions in the same general areas of our bodies. What that study doesn't do, what newer research is showing us, is that not everybody identifies the same experience as the same emotion. So you may look at a face and that may look like anger to me, but it looks like frustration to you, or it looks like confusion to you. And so there is some growing knowledge. So what's really important is just to understand your own body map. Whatever the label is for you, take a moment to figure out where it sits in your body. And one good way to do that is to think about, I like to conjure up 3 good emotions, right? Take a moment and sit and bring to mind something that is somebody you love, that you would move heaven and earth for. You just want them to be happy and you want the best for them, and you kind of sit there for a good few minutes just feeling them. And then you pause and figure out what sensations are showing up in your body. You know, some people describe feeling like their chest feels like it's blooming open like a flower, or they're feeling warmth. It could be anything. Make a note of that, and I say kind of make a mental map in your head, and okay, I feel it in my chest when I'm feeling love. Now take the same experience, the same exercise, and use it with fear and anger, and see where those show up in your body, and boom, you've got your body map. And so during the day when you're doing integrated practice moments, one of them might be, let me check in with my body. How's my shoulder? Because I know I hold stress in my shoulders. How's my stomach? I know it's when I'm anxious, I feel stuff there. So you know with your own body map where to check in. And that gives information. And the reason that's important, because the one thing we do know is that emotions show up physiologically in the body, and they connect to the thoughts. So however we label the sensation that shows up in our body forms that thought. And then that is like a domino effect about if there's a story related to it, if there's past trauma related to it, if there's fear related to it. And then that allows us with that information to choose how we respond. And oftentimes that's when the inner critic starts to work, needs to be done, because we sometimes have to reframe a new truth around it. It's not that the act itself didn't happen, but we are reclaiming our power around it and how we wish for it to interact with us going forward. So I always say the lesson can stay, right? So pull the wisdom forward, but heal the emotional part of it.
Wow. So say, you know, something's happening and, you know, you feel anxiousness in your stomach.
Mm-hmm.
So once you can identify that, then you can try to create language that will shift. Like, so I no longer, is it the type of thing where you're like, I no longer feel anxious about this? I can feel calmness, or I can feel, or
Well,
turbulence is a big thing for me.
Turbulence. That's a good word, and I think a lot of us feel that. So the first point I want to make is that it's not about denying whatever's showing up. So it's not about saying, nope, we're not nervous, it's okay, because it might not be okay. So it's acknowledging what it is and telling yourself that you are okay. Like that okay, this is what's here, this is what's present. And you may need to use some mindfulness sort of meditation or practice to help calm the sensation so that you do have the emotional mental capacity to process it in a healthy way. Because none of it is about suppressing, denying, avoiding. It's about allowing, with some sense of equanimity, whatever is present to exist and to meet it from a place that's healthy. And oftentimes when that happens, we do find we might need help outside of ourselves. So we may need to go talk to somebody, and whether that's somebody formal or informal, a friend, a therapist, or what have you. But part of the processing of it, after we notice it, is what do I need to do for my body to help it relax a little bit more into so that it's not so palpable. Now the other thing is sometimes it's there to help us, right? So I'll give another example. When I first started doing keynotes, and I was terrified at public speaking. I would, even though I was a lawyer, I could do that, but there was just something about talking and in front of a room full of people and being the only one up there. And what I realized after watching, looking at some research and seeing a magnificent video of research by Kelly McGonigal on how to reframe stress, what I realized, if I told myself two things about how my body was feeling, I was feeling lots of stuff in my stomach, my chest was constricting, I was perspiring, and my heart was beating fast, and I was telling myself, oh my God, I'm so nervous, I don't know how I'm going to do this, I'm so nervous, I was drilling it, right? So two things happened after I did the research, saw Kelly McGonigal's video, and realized that if I could interpret what I was feeling differently as something positive. So what I realized, what I said to myself was, I am nervous because I'm about to do something really important that means a lot to me, and my body is simply summoning the energy that's needed for what I'm about to do next, number one. And number two, because I'm not interested in being the sage on the stage or the expert in the room, what I really enjoy is conversation and discovery. So I told myself, I'm not going out there to lecture anybody, I'm going out there to have a conversation. So those two things, telling myself that my body was just simply summoning the energy for what I was to do next, and that was important. So thank you, body. Yeah, I'm nervous, and that's okay. And the second was because I'm going out to have a really important conversation. And that began to shift how I showed up and how my body started to feel. I still feel nervous, but now I kind of celebrate it.
That is awesome. So what would you love for people to take away from our conversation?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just kind of really curious about what kind of lawyer she was, because I'm imagining her as like a fierce prosecutor, like well, it's not easy to determine. So sorry, this is a distraction, so let's keep going.
I would love for us all to not be so fearful and anxious about everything, because there's a lot out there that we could say, well, this is a crisis, this is why I'm anxious, and yes, they're all real, and in fact many of the things that we're watching and witnessing today, many are very scary. This isn't about not acknowledging that. This is about how do we ground ourselves so we can show up the best version of ourselves to meet that complexity that is here in the world. The crisis that we may face, crisis of trust, crisis of fill in the blank. This work is about us choosing to show up and stand up differently for ourselves and others in the world. And when we can do that, that creates a ripple effect that is so incredibly powerful and transformative for everyone that's in our wake.
Yeah, there you go. So it's pretty easy to imagine, how useful it could be to like reframe things, and it's the opposite of mindlessness. So the next one is befriending our bodies, and this is by the guy who inspired the creation of this course, university professor.
So how about then befriending the body? A lot of us don't want to go anywhere near the body, never mind befriending it. And there's, some comedians like to joke, I'm sort of okay for up here, but here I only visit on occasion when the conditions are right, second chakra, whatever it is. But, a lot of the time we don't actually integrate into our body. So mindfulness is a kind of embodied being that involves this spaciousness and also a non-judgmental presencing, so that we're not constantly caught up in liking and disliking our ideas and opinions about this, that, and everything else. It really is a kind of scientific, dispassionate willingness to look at things as if for the first time and not know so much about it. So the knowing of awareness really has to do with also
a scientific, dispassionate way of looking at things. There you go.
the not knowing, and knowing that we don't know. that is what most scientists hope to cultivate, because it's only when you reach the limits of what you know that you might have a snowball's chance in hell of moving into the domain of the not knowing and contribute something that has never been seen or felt or measured or realized before. So that's something that all of us have. It's like, if we don't see ourselves as incarnated, miraculous beings, there's something the matter with us. Because there's so much more right with us than wrong with us, no matter what's wrong with us, and that's what we tell our patients. When you have cancer, heart disease, chronic pain conditions that drive you crazy, and you put out the welcome mat and rotate your relationship to those actualities in your life, all of a sudden there's the discovery that you're a lot bigger than your cancer, your pain. Walt Whitman said that, I'm large, I contain multitudes. I mean, the poets understand this, that we are not who we think we are. We're much, much bigger, but a lot of the time we have very diminished views of ourselves. When you start to do this, it's profoundly healing and transformative. But I shouldn't use the verb doing, because it's more a being than a doing. So we have to, in some sense, the invitation is to drop into being. We're called human beings, but mostly we act like we're human doings, and it can get us into big trouble. Okay, so this is an invitation to actually cultivate that kind of intimacy. Now, it's all relational, so we befriend the body. Whether we like it or not, we befriend it as it is. Whether we have cancer, heart disease, chronic pain, or just feel like we don't weigh what we want to weigh. We work at actually befriending it without it having to change. We're not into fixing. This is radically different from medicine, and medicine itself is realizing it has to change and not merely be into fixing. But actually, healing is very, very different from fixing. It's, in a sense, allowing the system, the organism, to come to terms with the way things are, and then it rotates very often, and things change in profoundly meaningful ways that no one could ever sort of tell you about. You have to discover or uncover them yourself through your own willingness to engage.
All right, sorry about that. I was putting water into my blender so that I could have a smoothie this morning. So yeah, that's befriending our bodies by the inspiration, the university professor at the health college that inspired the creation of the sport. This is what. Yeah, so it's not a woo woo crazy religious thing. It's very important when it comes to doing science as well, because you have to ask those questions, you have to make those observations. So this is about doing that more effectively, and doing that to improve your own life. All right, so the last video is All Bodies Are Beautiful by Amy Pence Brown, and this is another short one, 4 minutes, and I will watch it faster. All right, so this says, okay, so this is the one where this person, Amy, on August 29th, 2015, at a busy public market in downtown Boise, Idaho, does something that I will watch. I'm going to watch this and not go in the kitchen and only listen. Okay, so she's stripping down into her underwear. And she's has a sign that says, I'm standing for anyone that has, okay, and we'll be able to read it more carefully later. Okay, so here's the sign. The sign says, I'm standing for anyone who has struggled with a self-esteem issue like me, because AU bodies, this is LL, not a U, because all bodies are valuable. To support self-acceptance, draw a heart on my body. And I do have to say, I'm not trying to be. So this is about mindfulness, right? Like I'm saying this without judgment, without criticism. This person appears to be in at least the in probably the overweight BMI range, if not type 1 obesity, according to the WHO standards. So I would guess that this is difficult for this person to do because they do have some kind of because they believe that is something to be ashamed of. So I think that's probably part of the message. I just wanted to make that observation, and I wanted to practice doing that in a way that's not judgmental. It's simply an observation. And I bring that up because my body is, if I were female, I'd be lucky to have a body like that right now with how my life has changed since the pandemic. But that's a judgment, that's an evaluation, right? It's like, I'd be lucky to, I'm basically saying that I look worse. And that's kind of that's not the goal of mindfulness, right? It's to step back from that, peel that stuff away, and just see things for what they are. And you could even notice, the music, the editing, that paints a picture, that puts, like what if death metal music was playing, what if kind of horror music was playing like you'd hear in a horror movie. So you could see how hard this is because the world injects these judgments, so to strip them away and just make observations that are free of that is quite difficult, because often you have to, it's not that you have to prevent your own projections from kind of distorting the message. You have to peel back the distortions that are already there. Yeah, and this is the kind of thing for me that is a little bit triggering, because I've thought a lot about like animal rights and stuff, and I would wonder if this person and the people involved do consume animals, while at the same time saying that all bodies are important, because in my mind that is a bit of a a decision that the body in which you are consuming is in fact at a lower tier, as such that they can be killed, in aside from natural, as such that their natural lifespan can be shortened, so that they can be consumed as food. And my belief as well is that, like, I know in my own experience, a big reason why I have obesity is because I eat a lot of animal-based foods. So that I'm trying to give these thoughts without being judgmental, just making observations about what I think, because since the pandemic, I've consumed a lot of content online, and we all know what the internet is like. It's crazy. It scrambles your brain like an egg. So, that's the other thing that makes this really hard, is with the internet, with the information age, there's just so much information coming in and coming out of the average person's brain nowadays. It's really something to try to get a hold on. So that's what MBSR is all about. All right, so next is the readings. So print these for your manual or read them online. We're going to read them online. I'm going to spend another 20 minutes on this, and that will be the end of this video. All right, so the first reading is Body Scan Meditation. It's 3 pages long. I need a quick break. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Let's use the 15 minutes, 15 more minutes, and knock off at least this one reading here. So this is the Body Scan Meditation, quite a bit old now. It's almost 20 years old, and it's an excerpt from Coming to Our Senses. And I don't know what audio guidance means. I guess you can get an audio version of this. Or you can have a guided run through of this. The body scan has proven to be an extremely powerful and healing form of meditation. It forms the core of the lying down practices that people train in mindfulness-based stress reduction. It involves systematically sweeping through the body with the mind, bringing an affectionate, open-hearted, interested attention to its various regions, customarily starting from the toes of the left foot and then moving through the entirety of the foot to sole the heel, the top of the foot, then up the left leg, including in turn the ankle, the shin, and the calf, the knee and the kneecap, the thigh in its entirety, on the surface and deep, the groin and the left hip, then over to the toes of the left foot, the other regions of the foot, then up the right leg in the same manner as the left. From there, the focus moves into, successively and slowly, the entirety of the pelvic region, including the hips again, the buttocks and the genitals, the lower back, the abdomen, and then the upper torso, the upper back, the chest, and the ribs, the breasts, the heart and lungs and great vessels housed within the rib cage, the shoulder blades floating on the rib cage in back, all the way up to the collarbones and shoulders. From the shoulders, we move to the arms, often doing them together, starting from the tips of the fingers and thumbs and moving successfully through the fingers and palms and backs of the hands, the wrists, forearms, elbows, upper arms, armpits, and shoulders again. Then we move into the neck and throat, and finally the face and head. And I want to point this out to everyone. Zygotebody.com I found is the best digital anatomy tool that's free online. Most of them you have to pay for. So I'm an adult male, so we'll load that one in, and let's look at the ear cross. I guess there are some paid features, but definitely if you're just doing a body scan, this is probably the way to go. You can get very Oh, all of these. So this whole feature of looking at these components like this is a paid feature. But for the free feature, you can strip things down a layer at a time like this, all the way down to nothing. So you can completely strip the whole graphic away, or you can add back things. So it's from the inside out, right? So these are, yep. So anything that encases anything else, it's layers, right? You're peeling back the layers. So this could be a decent tool because sometimes people don't know where things are. A classic example is the stomach. People might think that their stomach is like kind of low, but the stomach is actually quite high. Yeah, so the stomach is right here, and it's one chamber of the stomach too. The stomach is this here. So this is the stomach body, and this is the stomach pyloric. So the stomach body is like what the actual stomach is. This is like a special section of the stomach that attaches to the tube. So like your actual stomach is under your ribs. It's like so high up that it's kind of a little bit under your solar plexus, which is up here, and then to the left under your ribs. So it's definitely not by your belly button. That's not your stomach at all. Your belly button, which we can see, is oops, I will have to get rid of that. Yeah. So here's the belly button. So directly underneath the belly button, it's just all your freaking gross guts, right? And then the stomach is way higher. And gross is a judgmental term, but I'm saying that as part of a joke. All right, so when we practice the body scan, we are systematically and intentionally moving our attention through the body, attending to the various sensations in the different regions. That we can attend to these body sensations at all is quite remarkable. That we can do it at all, either impulsively or in a more disciplined, systematic way, is even more so. Without moving a muscle, we can put our mind anywhere in the body we choose and feel to be aware of whatever sensations are present in the moment. Yeah, so you can obviously, like that's uncontroversial, right? So you can feel, like, for example, I'm standing on my treadmill, right? And I know without looking, without doing anything else, that my left foot is on the tread of the treadmill, but my right foot is spread across the side of the treadmill and the tread of the treadmill. So my heel on my right foot is on the tread of the treadmill, but the second half of my right foot is the balls of my foot is on the side of the treadmill. And in fact, my toes, 4 of my toes are completely hanging off in the air. And my big toe is the only toe that is touching the treadmill. The rest are not touching it at all. And I can do that, and I can have that awareness of my foot without looking at my foot or doing anything else besides putting my mind in my foot so that I can feel and be aware of the sensations that are on my foot. So pretty like when you think about it, that's pretty profound, right? Like you can't do that with, I can't tell where my where my blender is right now. It's in the kitchen somewhere. I don't know exactly where it is. And I can't move my mind into my blender. So like, you've got kind of a superpower when it comes to your own body. Experientially, we might describe what we are doing during a body scan as tuning in or opening to those sensations, allowing ourselves to become aware of what is already unfolding, much of which we usually tune out because it is so obvious, so mundane, so familiar that we hardly know it is there. I mean here. And of course, by the same token, we could say that most of the time in our lives, we hardly know we are there. I mean here, experiencing the body, in the body, of the body. The words actually fail the essence of the experience. When we speak about it, as we've already observed, language itself forces us to speak of a separate I who has a body. We wind up sounding hopelessly dualistic. And yet, in a way, there certainly is a separate I who has a body, or at least there is a very strong appearance of that being the case, and we have spoken of this as being the level of conventional reality, the relative and level of appearances. In the domain of relative reality, there is the body and its sensations, object, and there is the perceiver of the sensations, subject. They appear separate and different. Then there are moments of pure perceiving that arise sometimes in meditation practice, and sometimes at other very special moments in life. Yet such moments are potentially available to us at all times, since they are attributes of awareness itself. Perceiving unifies the apparent subject and apparent object in the experiencing itself. Subject and object dissolve into awareness. Awareness is larger than sensation. It has a life of its own, separate from the life of the body, yet intimately dependent on it. Awareness is deeply barefoot. This is a new one for me. Let's get the pronunciation. Deprived or robbed of the possession or use of something.
Bereft.
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 And sorry about that. I hope it's not too loud. It sounded bad with me, but it's bereft. Awareness is deeply bereft, which means that it's hard to have awareness. It's lacking. However, when it does not have a full body to work with due to disease or injury to the nervous system itself. Oh. Okay, so it's saying awareness isn't necessarily bereft, but it certainly is when there's a disease or an injury. The intact nervous system provides us with all of our extraordinary gateways into the feeling, sensing world. Yet, like most everything else, we take these capacities so much for granted that we hardly notice that every exquisite moment of our life in relationship, both inwardly and outwardly, depends on them. Not only might we come more to our senses, we might realize that we only know through our senses. If you include the mind, or awareness itself as a sense, you could say the ultimate sense. It is not uncommon, while practicing the body scan for the sensations in the body, to be felt more acutely, even for there to be more pain, a greater intensity of sensation in certain regions. At the same time, in the context of mindfulness practice, the sensations, whatever they are and however intense, are also being met more accurately too, with less overlay of interpretation, judgment, and reaction, including aversion and the impulse to run, to escape. In the body scan, we are developing a greater intimacy with bare sensation, opening to the give and take embedded in the reciprocity between the sensations themselves and our awareness of them. As a result, it is not uncommon to be less disturbed by them, or disturbed by them in a different, wiser way, even when they are accurate. Awareness learns to let them be as they are and to hold them without triggering so much emotional reactivity and also so much inflamed thinking about them. We sometimes speak of awareness and discernment, differentiating and perhaps naturally uncoupling the sensory dimension of the experience of pain from the emotional and cognitive dimensions of pain. In the process, the intensity of the sensations themselves can sometimes subside. In any event, they may come to be seen as less onerous, less debilitating. It seems as if awareness itself, holding the sensations without judging them or reacting to them, is healing our view of the body and allowing it to come to terms, at least to some degree, with conditions as they are in the present moment in ways that no longer overwhelmingly erode our quality of life, even in the fact of pain or disease. The awareness of pain really is a different realm from being caught up in pain and struggling with it. And setting foot in that realm, we discover some succor and respite. In this in itself is an experience of liberation, a profound freedom in that moment, at least from a narrower way of holding the experience of pain when it is not seen as a bare sensation. It is not a cure by any means, but it is a learning and an opening and an accepting and a navigating of ups and downs of what previously was penetratable and unworkable. Paraphrasing James Joyce in one of his short stories in Dubliners, Mr. Duffy lived a short distance from his body. That may be an address too many of us share. Taking a miracle of embodiment for granted is a horrible loss. It would be a profound healing of our lives to get back in touch with it. All it takes is practice in coming to our senses, all of them, and a spirit of adventure. The body scan is not for everybody, and it is not always the meditation of choice, even for those who love it. It is extremely useful and good to know about and practice from time to time, whatever your circumstances or condition. If you think of your body as a musical instrument, the body scan is a way of tuning it. If you think of it as a universe, the body scan is a way to come to know it. If you think of your body as a house, the body scan is a way to throw open all the windows and doors and let the fresh air of awareness sweep it clean. You can also scan your body much more quickly depending on your time constraints and the situation you find yourself in. You can do a 1 in-breath or 1 out-breath body scan, or a 1, 2, 5, 10, or 20-minute body scan. The level of precision and detail will, of course, vary depending on how quickly you move through the body. But each speed has its virtues, and ultimately it is about being in touch with the whole of your being and your body in any and every way you can outside of time altogether. You can practice body scans, long or short, lying in bed at night or in the morning. You can also practice them sitting or even standing. There are countless creative ways to bring the body scan or any other lying down meditation into your life. If you make use of any of them, it is highly likely that you will find that they will bring new life to you and bring you to a new appreciation of your body and how much it can serve as a vehicle for embodying here and now what is the deepest and best in yourself, including your dignity, your beauty, your vitality, and your mind when it is open and undisturbed. Now, this is the part of this sort of stuff. I've done nonviolent communication before. I've read that book and researched it. This is the stuff I really love. It increases your vocabulary when it comes to noticing aspects of yourself. So physical sensations you might notice with a body scan, here you go. These are all the tools. Instead of saying, this is horrible, I hate it, I'm suffering, you can say, there's a shooting, a burning, prickly feeling in my whatever, and that can be useful, right? Because let's say you're in the hospital for some serious condition, it probably matters to the diagnosis or whatever what these physical sensations are. So to be able to describe them correctly is a matter of practicality. So the physical sensations you might notice with the body scan are tingly, tight/loose. So I'll do a body scan now. I'll think if there's anything that's tingly. A little bit in my upper right shoulder, maybe. Anything that's tight and loose. My knees are very tight. I would say my upper arms are very loose because I'm resting my lower arms against the table. Anything that's soft, my sweater that I'm wearing is very soft. Anything that's rough, the tread on the treadmill is very rough. Anything that is stiff, my legs are very stiff right now because I'm standing up. Anything that is really flexible, I would say my thumbs are really flexible because I'm kind of twiddling them. Anything that's airy, definitely the sweater. Anything that's dense, I would say my pants are more dense than my sweater. Any burning sensation, no, I got a freebie. No burning sensation. Maybe a little bit in my upper right shoulder, a little bit. Any shooting sensation? No, I got a freebie with that too. So that's something to be grateful for, right? I'm not in burning, shooting pain. Anything feeling prickly? My forehead's a little prickly. Anything feeling numb? I would say my feet maybe are going a little numb. Anything shaky? Nope, nothing shaky. So another thing to be grateful for. Is anything pounding? I feel like my heart and my pulse is pounding a little bit. Does anything sting? Anything feel stinging? Nope, another freebie with that. Any pulling sensations? I guess as I'm standing, I'm on the treadmill with a little bit of a decline to it, so it feels like it's pulling my feet down a little bit. Any pulsing sensations? I can feel my actual pulse and my heart beating. So yeah, yes, certainly that. Itchy, that's a big one for me. I get itching all the time. Yes, my forehead is itchy right now. Any throbbing sensations? Not so much. Surprising. Any airy sensations, which is listed twice. I'm going to say no. I'm not even sure what is meant by that. Anything dull or sharp, presumably relating to pain. Not really. Anything achy. I'm sure my knees and elbows. Yeah, my elbows are very achy. Yeah, and it's a dull ache. Yeah, for sure. Any trembling? No. Any cutting sensation? Is anything like digging in, cutting in? Nope. No sensations like that. Any vibrating? No sensations like that. Any like sinking feeling, like pit in your stomach? Hey, I start work in 55 minutes, and my answer is no. So that's something to be grateful to. Anything feeling really light or really heavy? Not really. Tense, relaxed. I feel really relaxed right now. It's so great to I'm so grateful for being able to work from home. I'm feeling really relaxed, and I like that feeling. Anything cool? Anything warm? Sweater's warm. Feet are a little bit cool. Anything clammy, anything dry. I think I'm a little bit dry. The sweater's a little bit too warm, so I'm sweating a little bit. And then my feet are dry, but they're not too dry. There we go. So that's a body scan. Those are the physical sensations. I did it backwards. I looked at the sensation, then I scanned it with my body and tried to see if I felt it. If I didn't feel it, because a lot of these, burning, shooting, prickly, I am grateful I am not feeling those sensations. All right, so the emotional reactions you might notice: impatience, wanting to stop; sadness, anger, fear, frustration; enjoyment, grief, anticipation. So I noticed some enjoyment. This was kind of fun for me to do. Boredom, pride, shame, release, disgust, joy, surprise. I felt like I noticed a little bit of surprise too. I think I was expecting to feel worse than I am right now. I'm actually feeling pretty good. All right, so thoughts that occur: reviewing the past, planning, wishing, hoping, comparing. And that's one I struggle with a lot: wishing, hoping, and comparing. That's kind of one of the main reasons I think ChatGPT and I came up with doing this is to kind of get over some of those wishing, hoping, comparing feelings that I have. And then imagining the future, evaluating / analyzing, labeling / cataloging, thinking about others, circular thinking, judging your experience. So these are thoughts that may occur. These are not thoughts that are bad. These are not thoughts that you want to throw away. These are thoughts that may occur. So noticing them can be helpful. If, for example, if you're wishing, hoping, and comparing, that might spiral into feeling sad or depressed. So if you wish not to if you'd rather not feel really anxious, sad, or depressed, noticing that there's an occurring thought of wishing, hoping, and comparing might be a good observation to make, because maybe you can do something like take a break from the computer and go do something else that would cause other sorts of thoughts to occur, such as imagining the future. You might do like a budgeting thing, something. The other thing would be like, planning. You might want to plan for something. So, do an exercise routine so you can kind of save yourself from spiraling into anxiety or depression. That's probably one of the main reasons. It's scientifically proven to improve upon those sorts of feelings. Note, if at any point you experience too much discomfort, become panicky or scared, stay with your breath until you feel better. And I will add, breathe in and out of your nose. Like try to do that. Try to keep your mouth shut and breathe in and out of your nose. It's much, much better for you than in and out your mouth. Your nose has, feet of intricate chambers in it that do important things to the air. It cleans the air. It pressurizes the air in the appropriate way. It moistens the air, so you have to breathe in and out through your nose. At the very least, breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. If you want to calm down, breathing in through your nose rapidly and then out as if you're blowing through a straw is a really effective way for that. But just every day, normal day-to-day, breathe in and out through your nose. I can't emphasize that enough. If you have trouble doing it, do these resonant coherent breathing exercises in and out through your nose and train yourself to do that automatically. That's what I did, and it made a big difference. If things are still too much, try opening your eyes. And you might have like a nasal obstruction or something where you just can't. If that's the case, I would say go see the doctor because I know someone who had a nasal obstruction and had it removed and was able to breathe a lot better. If things are still too much, try opening your eyes, looking around the room to orient yourself, maybe looking at something that is comforting or soothing to you. A favorite piece of art, photo of a loved one, or a pet. You may even want to reach out to a friend, take a walk, have a cup of tea. Taking care of yourself, even if it means interrupting the process, is mindfulness in action. If the net effect of this practice is that you are feeling overwhelmed with emotion, see, I have strong... so I've read this already. I think this is... actually, I didn't... Oh yeah, I think I read this already. Yeah. So, all right. So that's it for this video. Yeah, that's with the note. That's it. So, that's the body scan meditation. So the next reading will be. Oh my God. So this is from Deepak Chopra. If we look him up on Wikipedia. We can see that we have a whole. Now I didn't even. This is the first time I'm ever looking him up on Wikipedia. The first time I've ever looked him up, and here we go. Legal actions. So the Journal of American Medical Association, JAMA, published an article by Chopra, and they issued an erratum stating that the lead author had undisclosed financial interests. And then the associate editor was highly critical of Chopra and other authors for failing to disclose their financial connections. And then the other thing, several experts on meditation and traditional Indian medicine criticized JAMA for accepting the shoddy science written by Chopra. So Chopra, from what I understand, is kind of a controversial figure that is kind of monetizing the kind of the aesthetics of this, but really getting the science wrong. So you want to be careful with where you're getting these this information from. Chopra and two TM groups sued them for defamation, but the case was dismissed. So you know, it was a dismissed case. It wasn't just defamation. Chopra, after he published his book, he was sued for copyright infringement. So you can see, you know, he's plagiarizing. He's has undisclosed financial interests. and it's not just defamation, that was out of course. So and then an out of court settlement he was taken to court resulted in him attributing it correctly. So be careful with what you hear it from. It's kind of funny. Some of the stuff comes from the Beatles, which is kind of funny. Like the Beatles, if anyone doesn't know, which people who are younger might not know who the Beatles are. They're the most successful band of all time. And they became so successful that in the 60s, they could take flights anywhere around the world wherever they wanted at a time where commercial flights was just starting to be kicked off. So they went to India a lot and they studied meditation and stuff there. And John Lennon's main teacher tried to trick John Lennon into giving him rights to the latest album, even though he had nothing to do with the music. He was just his meditation teacher. So you always got to be this isn't about there's bad actors in every space. So without accusing anyone of being a bad actor, I just say you always got to have that skepticism. You always have to have kind of a clear mind, and you always have to be wary of what people's motives are. So we are going to read this Deepak Chopra article, but I'm going to remain a skeptic and remain scientifically minded. We can see that Chopra does have a position of skepticism himself. So and we can see that Paul Kurtz, an American skeptic and secular humanist, which I more identify as. And when I say more identify as, I am an American skeptic and secular humanist. So he has written that the popularity of Chopra's views is associated with increasing anti-science attitudes in society. And I believe this is one of the biggest assaults on the United States society, and I don't use that term assault lightly. I think anti-science attitudes are going to be the downfall of the United States, and we have to do everything possible to combat that. Such popularity of Chopra represents an assault on the objectivity of science itself by seeking new alternative forms of validation for ideas. Kurtz says that medical claims must always be submitted to open-minded but proper scrutiny, and that skepticism has its work cut out for it. In 2013, Chopra published an article on what he saw as skepticism at work in Wikipedia, arguing that a stubborn band of militant skeptics were editing articles to prevent what he believes would be a fair representation of the views of figures such as Rupert Sheldrake, an author, lecturer, and researcher in parapsychology, which is likely a pseudoscience. So it's the study of psychic phenomenon. And yes, it's criticized as being a pseudoscience, and the majority of mainstream scientists reject it. And that's important. One thing that is happening in American society is we'll have a consensus among scientists, and the media, which is a triggering statement for a lot of people, I realize, will take the 0.01% of scientists that disagree with the mainstream opinion and give them all the airtime and all the time they need to express their opinion, but give no time to the actual consensus, and any time they do give is time where they are very skeptical of it and do not listen or consider the evidence with the same kind of interest as they would the 0.01% that disagree. Because, a lot of the times when you disagree with the consensus of scientists, you're just lying. You're just making stuff up. Like you can make it interesting. You can make it fun. The truth is boring and mundane. Like the truth sucks. The truth is the most boring stuff you can imagine. So like when you're going against the mainstream scientific consensus, you're just more interesting. You're going to be more interesting on camera. All right, so the result, Chopra argued, was that the encyclopedia's readers were denied the opportunity to read and then the other thing is the truth is very limited. You can talk for hours and hours and hours if you're just making stuff up. The opportunity to read of attempts to expand science beyond its conventional boundaries. The biologist Jerry Coyne responded saying that it was instead Chopra who was losing out as his views were being exposed as a lot of scientifically sounding psychobabble. Yeah, so a lot of people will use words from the scientific domains of knowledge to make themselves sound more credible, because they know that their audience isn't familiar with these words, and exposure to these words themselves will make them seem as though they are an expert to the audience, despite the fact that they are not using the words appropriately. So more broadly, Chopra has attacked skepticism as a whole, writing in the Huffington Post that no skeptic, to my knowledge, ever made a major scientific discovery or advanced the welfare of others. And I would say Galileo did do that. He was skeptical that the sun revolved around the Earth, and gathered evidence and provided proof that it is in fact the other way around. The Earth revolves around the sun, and that was in fact a major scientific discovery, and it did in fact advance the welfare of others, because now we have things like GPS, we have things like understanding time zones better, we have a better understanding of time, a better understanding of the seasons. This is verifiably false, this statement. Astronomer Phil Flatt said this statement trembled on the very edge of being a blatant and gross lie, listing Carl Sagan, Richard Feynman, Stephen Jay Gould, and Edward Jenner among the thousands of scientists who are skeptics, who he said were counterexamples to Chopra's statement. So here we go. We are going to read this in the next video, but I will be very careful to say that be careful with this kind of stuff, because anti-science sort of thinking is going to screw you over. It doesn't matter how mindful you are. If you believe the Earth is flat, if you don't believe in science, you're screwed. You're out of luck. You have to believe in science. You have to. All right, so that's it for this video. So stay tuned for the next one. We're going to read 7 Myths of Meditation by Deepak Chopra, and we might dive more into the proven into the legal actions taken against him, the reasons why they were taken, and to his current reputation amongst the people who identify themselves as skeptics and secular humanists, and people that don't have non-scientific attitudes. All right, so thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.